Hi, welcome to Pathways of Hope. The passage for today is rather complicated, and sometimes we find it difficult to understand the meaning of many of these ideas. And so I will try to give you a few background ideas about the gospel today so that you can appreciate the significance of this gospel. Because here, Jesus is claiming absolute authority. He's claiming to be equal to God. Matthew chapter 12. At that time, Jesus went through the grain fields on the Sabbath. His disciples were hungry and they began to pluck heads of grain to eat. But when the Pharisees saw it, they said to him, "Look, your disciples are doing what is not lawful to do on the Sabbath." He said to them, "Have you not read what David did when he was hungry, and those who were with him, how he entered the house of God and ate? The bread of the presence, which it was not lawful for him to eat, nor for those who were with him, but only for the priests. Or have you not read in the law how on the Sabbath the priests in the temple profane the Sabbath, are guiltless? And if they had known what this means, 'I desire mercy and not sacrifice,' you would not have condemned the guiltless. For the Son of Man is the Lord of the Sabbath." Now, a few background ideas here. First, the Sabbath was considered by the Jews as a time to worship God. God commanded them to set aside a day, the Sabbath day, to set it aside in honor of God. And so the Pharisees, who were very strict followers of the law, had requirements on how to handle their life. And they considered the Sabbath as sacred. It's a time to worship the Lord. But in these two cases that Jesus gives us as an example, we see that God seemed to have given authority to certain people because they were representatives of God to do things that were not lawful. In the sense, David, who was the anointed one, was given the permission to eat the bread of presence, which was inside the temple. The bread of presence also represents the presence of God. But the priest recognized the authority of the anointed one, David the king. So he was allowed, together with his armies, to eat the bread of presence. And then he gives an example. The priest who was assigned to take care of the temple, they have the authority to take care of what's in the temple, the place where the Jews worship God. So in this case, Jesus then said, there is someone greater than these two, the priests and David. And who is that one who is greater? Well, obviously, God, the one who anointed David and the one who gave authority to the priests. But this time, Jesus is also referring to himself as the one who is Lord of the Sabbath. So he's claiming absolute authority. So here, he's then saying, the Pharisees, you should recognize this. I require mercy, not sacrifice. Who is the one requiring that? It is a quotation from the Old Testament. And God is the one who requires mercy, not sacrifice. So Jesus is claiming absolute authority in this exchange with the Pharisees. Don't you see that there is someone greater than David? Or even greater than the priests who took care of the temple? Who was that? Jesus himself. Now, what lesson do we learn from this story? Well, one, we should not imitate the Pharisees who are blinded, unable to recognize who Jesus Christ is. Jesus, who is Lord. And in our life, I believe, we sometimes act like the Pharisees. We judge people. We make certain judgments of how people should live. And I try to be faithful strictly to the law of obedience to God. But sometimes we fail to recognize who is really the Lord. Are we doing it out of a recognition of who Jesus Christ is in our life? He must be Lord. And all the things that we do must be centered on giving worship to Him and recognizing that He is the source of undeserved favor, mercy. And therefore, we need to also show mercy and favor to others. In this case, Jesus is reminding the Pharisees who is the Lord of the Sabbath. Jesus is the Lord of the Sabbath. So therefore, we must follow Him faithfully. We must be disciples of Him. And as we live for Him, then we would know what it means to celebrate the Sabbath, which is to worship God by giving ourselves totally to His Son, our Lord Jesus Christ, by following Him faithfully as a disciple. God bless us.